Hey guys, we're back. I tell you, it's funny, Randall. I know you know what I'm talking about. You have an hour between shows.
Yeah.
In that time, you gotta take the dogs out, get the trash out, eat something, spend a minute with your wife, freshen up your drink,
Yeah.
and then it's time to come right back on. I tell you the bummer of it all, buddy. I went to the doctor a couple months back, and he said you gotta lose some weight, son. So where a couple weeks ago we were talking, it was pizza.
Uh-huh.
You know, it was for dinner tonight, brother.
Pizza?
Good old fashioned salad, man. A good old fashioned salad. It's funny because you're just trying to do the right things.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say pizza because between shows I looked at my wife and I said, "Is it time to order pizza?"
And I'll probably say something a little bit off the beaten path here, but I recorded the Rock and Roll Show last night, the classic album review.
Yeah.
And we got a great feedback, by the way, and thank you everybody that watched that. So this is my third night in a row of recording, and my little office here, I've got some Tennessee collectibles behind me, but there's a couch right next to me. And they're just show notes strode all the way from Monday, Tuesday. I got it. Here you go. I don't know how this notes. Yesterday's show, equipment to wire things together, notes for Monday show, notes from Tuesday show. We do it. We put a lot of effort in it getting this right for folks. So
yeah, it's a labor of love for sure. So
it absolutely is.
Yeah. But it's funny. We created this show to talk some variety.
Right.
Talk sports, but talk about whatever the flavor of the day is. And to me, I feel like we're getting to that time of year where you can talk both baseball and football.
Yeah, and we talked a little NBA playoffs the other night on 3R even.
Yeah,
you got a lot going in the sports world.
Right. So tonight I felt like we could hone down on some baseball stuff and we could hone down on some football stuff.
Sounds good.
And we could do that pretty easily, and we could give value to people while not selling folks short.
Absolutely.
So let's do that. Let's start in the baseball world, because I do feel like there's a lot going on right now, right?
A lot.
You look at where do you want to start? I'll tell you. I'll start in Atlanta. You look at what the Braves are doing, and I know you're kind of ho-hum on them, but I look at guys like Austin Riley. I look at guys like Dansby Swanson, and for me as an outsider, it gives me a glimmer of hope.
It does. You know what I think we're picking up in Atlanta? Now, we lost Soroka for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Azuna's mess is probably going to leave him out of the match. We won't even talk about.
Yeah, I don't like talking about that.
You don't expect him to play anymore.
He's done.
You call up Almonte, who's a cast-off minor leaguer, and now he's playing like lights out.
Yeah. But for how long?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for how long? The Braves are still 500, but Atlanta is. I felt truly like they were a year early last year, and I feel like this team regressed from that. But I don't know if the regression is due to the circumstances and the injury, or bad offseason decisions, or just it's the luck of baseball. Injuries this year seems to be running crazy, and we play in your home league. My whole outfield is on the DL. The whole first four outfielders I drafted are on the DL. I got Sterling Marte back at the end of last week, but it seems like the major leagues right now, the guys that are digging, and evidently I'm not one of them because I'm in 11th place, but it seems like in our league you can really tell the guys digging who's active on the waiver wires, and it just really seems like a struggle to me right now.
Yeah, yeah. And, I mean, I've kind of I've avoided some of that. I've built a good team in spite of my injuries. Juan Soto, and I got Cabrian Hayes days. That it's one of those things. I have him in almost every league. He came up. Hey, Rich, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Just wanted to tell him, hey.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking in, buddy.
But you look at. I don't know if you got a chance. Probably didn't get a chance to see Hayes today. Did you?
I did not. I have been on a run up today.
Yeah, so 2 for 4 last time I checked. Really, this is a kid that I think people know he's pretty good. I don't think we know how good Cabrian Hayes is moving forward. I think he could be a top 5 fantasy player in a couple years. What are your thoughts on that?
We were both kind of off the scale with him earlier in the year. The one thing we may be guilty of is sometimes seeing into the future and trying to project into the future too early. Any injury probably derailed him this year, but what little bit we did see earlier in the year, there's nothing that's toned me down on Cabrian Hayes. He's probably going to struggle coming back at some point. And the Chappy law of averages is that if he does struggle, there'll be periods where he don't struggle. So I can't believe that somebody said he was available in their league. If you can get Cabrian Hayes, go get him now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the thing about Hayes for me is he really in an OBP league. He is he's about as good as it gets. He reminds me a lot of Soto. He has his bat goes through the path so evenly that contact just comes naturally down.
Is he got some does he have a little bit of Rafael Devers in him at the plate?
He's a better ball to bat player than Rafael Devers is. And you know how I am on Devers.
Yes.
He's a better ball to bat player than Devers is. I'm telling you, this is a kid that I feel like because he took a little longer to get to the majors, because he's battled some injuries, because, the Pirates are kind of a forgotten team, I feel like he's one of those guys that's just isn't getting enough notoriety. And I think by the end of the year, people will be looking back and saying, man, he did that. He's just that good.
Well, also, I offer perspective that there's so much talent in that organization right now.
Oh, yeah.
That someone like Cabrian Hayes gets protected a little bit, but just because there's so many people on the same career arc as him, maybe he's a little ahead of a couple of people. But I remember that era where we had the Braves, which is my point of reference, where you had Francoeur and McCann coming up together. And kind of silently, McCann was the guy that was left out of that group. When you look at the production of the major league career, he was definitely the best major leaguer of the bunch. I kind of, Hayes is here first, but I feel like some of the guys in the minors have came up with a little more hype even. But now that we see him, Hayes is the guy that we'll be talking about.
Well, he definitely is. He's the catalyst to the offense.
Right.
I am really excited to see probably late July, early August, O'Neal Cruz. Because he's a middle of the lineup type player as well. He's more of a power hitter. So when you start putting these guys side by side, that's when it starts to become really interesting. So I don't know how much you're paying attention to the Pirates. I know probably not much. Kevin Newman's been pretty good.
Look, I'm on this show. I got to pay attention to the Pirates, or our friend Durf will kill me. So, yeah, I have to.
So Newman's been pretty good. Brian Reynolds is one of the most underrated players in the major leagues. Is that a bold take?
It's a very bold take. But Brian Reynolds is also a guy you hear other teams going, boy, I wonder if he's available.
I'll give you a comp for Brian Reynolds. You want to guess? It's a Pirate. It's a former Pirate.
Oh. Give it to me.
Jason Bay.
Good. That's 30, where I was going.
30 homers in his prime. Stellar outfield defense. Between 280 and 300 most years. This kid's going to be special. He already is special. He and Hayes have such high bat-to-ball skill that the 2-3 hole for the Pirates is sealed up for the next decade. Now it's just about building the nucleus around it.
Would they, at this point, it's not the Brave example. It's been other people's example. Do you got to get these guys up to the majors in 18 months, 24 months from now? Offer them some 7-year deal that's at a little bit of a discount to get out of that rookie contract. And, I mean, I think we're all going to be saying that Ronald Acuna for the next decade's at a bargain. Yeah. So do the Pirates need to do a little bit of that to manage their budget?
They tried to do that with Hayes, and he said, "Oh no, I'm not doing that." I think some of these. Here's the thing, though: if you're a guy, I'll name drop. If you're a guy like Quinn Priester, I think he's 20 years old, high A, going to be a future top 10 prospect, probably this time next year. He's that talented. He's this year's Alek Manoah, right, from last year. So where everybody was talking about Alek Manoah, where I was talking about Alek Manoah last year, everybody's like, who's that? That's Quinn Priester, okay? Now, if you're a 20-year-old Quinn Priester and you see in front of you in the depth chart guys like Miguel Ajus, you see guys like O'Neal Cruz, you see guys like Hudson Head, you see guys like, right on down the line, right? Nick Gonzalez, on and on and on. Wouldn't you want to stick around and build on that?
Some will, I do think some will. The major leagues doesn't have the shortest out window either. I think it takes you 6 or 7 years to get out anyway. So, I mean, it's not like you are going to bring Brian Hayes up and lose him in 4 years or have to franchise tag him in 4 years. There's a lot of circumstances that can happen in the next 7 years. And the one thing about it, too, is the Pirates have enough young talent. If they feel they're short in arms or short here, there's trades always to be made with that kind of talent, too. And I know fans hate hearing it. But
especially Pirate fans.
Yeah, but I was looking at the Christian Yelich trade today, and I was like, this is who the Marlins got for Christian Yelich. And you just go, God,
I don't remember. I know Monty Harrison was in it, correct?
Yeah,
it's not good.
It's not a name in there that made me go,
Yeah.
And
that happens more often than not. I mean, you look at I could give examples. I won't.
There's a lot of them.
Well, I was, of course, I always go to Jose Quintana for Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez, and there was another. I mean, and then I go to the Chris Archer for Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow and Shane Baz. I mean, you could just go on and on and on with these things.
Well, and all franchise does it at some point. I mean, the Braves let Brett Butler and Brooke Jacoby go for Lynn Barker in the late 80s. Jacoby was a serviceable third baseman, and Brett Butler, a many-year all-star. And Atlanta didn't have a center fielder for decades because of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've all done it. So
Well, and that's the thing. So, like, again, I feel like the Pirates are in much better hands now with Shelton and those guys. But with that last group, I feel like they couldn't trade because they knew that they were going to get taken advantage of because they didn't have money to. They didn't invest their money in the recruiting department, and it showed. So yeah, if you really want Chris Archer bad enough, give me two for future all stars, and the Pirates just bid it. That doesn't happen now.
Well, and the opposite could happen too. I don't know this for sure, but the Atlanta papers seem to indicate that the Braves had an opportunity to get Jacob deGrom a couple of years ago in a deal that would involve Christian Pache, Austin Riley, and one of the young pitchers. And as great as Austin Riley's been, you make that deal for the best pitcher in major leagues anytime,
Yeah.
So you can make a bad deal by not making a deal too.
So I'm glad you said that. So did you see the guy at Wrigley Field that streaked across? He didn't streak, but he ran across the field with
trade for Scherzer now.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, right?
It does.
Yeah. So I'll give you some numbers here. Chicago Cubs bats during the month of May. Javier Baez, 281, 7 homers, 16 RBIs, 855 OPS. Sustainable?
Not unreasonable. Maybe some slack off, but yeah, I mean those numbers, nice numbers. I feel like he's an elite player. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Chris Bryant in the month of May. 327, 5 homers, 13 RBI, and 961 OPS. For perspective, that's 110 points higher than Javi Baez's. Is that sustainable?
I would say no, but my boy Ray might be watching, so I'm not going to say it.
No, I think Ray's right. Ray's right. This is absolutely who Chris Bryant is.
And again, Ray would tell you you're exactly right. And he made the point the other night on the show. He's played the best defense of his career so far this year.
I love him in the outfield. Putting him in the outfield to me, and again, every game gets blacked out here in Indianapolis. So I've seen them like twice this year, which is why you don't see me wearing Cubs garb, right?
Yeah.
It's like falling in love with the girl that doesn't want anything to do with you.
Done that.
Yeah. So, but regardless, I've been a Cubs fan for 30-some years now. I'm still paying attention to them. Chris Bryant, when they moved him to the outfield predominantly, has opened up so much offensively that I don't know that he goes back to third base if they ever fix the situation with having full-time outfielders the way, that they want.
Well, you're probably going to get a little more out of his career. Well, it matters your perspective. And I've always been a guy that believed that playing the outfield was it's harder on your body, beat you up a little more. Playing third is one of the tougher positions in the major. And if you don't believe that, just go down to your local softball league and watch the balls that's ripped down third base on a Friday night or Thursday night.
I did it for years and years, brother.
It's scary and it's tough.
Yeah.
Playing third in the major leagues, is it the hardest position in the infield besides catching? Probably, in my opinion. Much more fanfare around the shortstop position, but
shortstop's tough, man.
They're
both tough. I mean, it's probably I'll tell you, the thing about third base is you have to have that arm. You have to have that arm, and that's why Bryant's been able to stick there. He has a really good arm. So this next player, So I'm sustainable on the first two players right now.
Okay.
Ian Happ in the month of May. 292, 5 homers, 13 RBIs, and a 971 OPS. 10 points higher than Chris Bryant's 961.
And Ian Happ was due. He had a rough first month. This might be your normalization factor over a period of time.
Yeah.
Probably unsustainable, but, I have Happ in a couple of leagues. I believe in Ian Happ.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's sustainable, but it's definitely – he was due for this kind of breakout after the April and early May he had.
Yeah. And I feel the same way. I feel like he falls off, but I don't feel like he falls off the cliff. I guess that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
I feel the normalization's a good word. I think he plateaus out around a 270 hitter.
Fair enough.
I think you're looking at 25 to 30 home runs. I think you're looking at 75 to 85 RBIs, and I think the OPS probably goes right around mid 85s, 850 to 900. I think that's so. You're talking about an OPS drop off of 100, and that's not bad. That's not bad.
No,
but I think now's the time to sell high on Ian Happ. I'm still buying Baez. I'm still buying Bryant. I'm selling Happ.
Is that in Dynasty and Redraft?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I only say that because the market's still unsure about Ian Happ. They've seen really high highs. They've seen really low lows. You may never get this high again. That's why. He might, but you're not going to get higher than this.
No, I mean this is Ian Happ at his best.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So if you have him, and I know you're asking me for this from a personal perspective, and you can get fair value of him where he stands right now as a ball player, you do that. And you don't look back.
The one thing I would throw and add to this, though, when we started this season, we thought Cubs was a multiple-year rebuild.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
They've took a couple of those years off of this rebuild.
Cheers to that, brother. Cheers to that. I'll tell you, and that's the thing. I've done a total 180 on this because I've told you they needed to trade Bryant. They needed to trade Baez. I don't think they do that.
No, I think they're closer than the fan base thought, and even I thought. And should have some money free in 22 to go add arms. And
Max Scherzer makes too much sense. And I'll give you another one. They need another pitcher. They need 2 pitchers at least out of this next draft class.
Yeah.
So I got one more player in May. I want you to tell me about. Jock Peterson in the month of May. 314 batting average. Only 3 homers, 13 RBIs, the same amount as Bryant and Happ. And 841 OPS. What's going on there?
Do you ever get a player pigeonholed in your own mind to being something? Either they're not that. Jock Peterson is pigeonholed to me as a good utility guy. That's not the numbers of a good utility guy. That's way beyond it. And I guess the years with the Dodgers where he really could not find a starting position, kind of in my head pigeonholed him. But I don't know. Maybe it's a new lease on life. How many times have you seen a pitcher or a player leave somewhere and go find superstardom? I mean, I think of Antolin Simmons a few years ago was at best a journeyman in Atlanta that became an elite shortstop for a period with the Angels, So yeah, I guess a player can be reborn.
You know, I feel like there's a number of things going on there, right? So let me start out by saying this. There's no way he hits 314.
No way.
That's not sustainable. It's getting ready to get hot in Chicago. Balls fly out of the park in Wrigley in the summer.
Yeah.
I feel like Peterson's getting ready to hit a lot of home runs. If you're in a rotisserie style league and Jock Peterson is on the waiver wire, you have to go get him. The homers are coming. He's always hit home runs. They're coming, and they're coming in bunches.
Right.
I feel like he's going to come down to about a 250 hitter. Now, I don't know what his year-long numbers are. I didn't look at that. But so for May, if he hit 314, that's telling me he's going to hit 220 for a while at some point.
And I probably would say he's a little better than a 250 hitter, but that's, again, my perception of him with LA, you know?
We don't know that, right? We don't know what he is. That's the point. So just, again, because they're blacked out here in Indy, I feel like I've neglected them. But you got to give props to them. They're 19-8 in May, the second best record in the majors. They're now sitting alone in first place in the NL Central with a 30-23 record. Who's the best team in the Central, Randall?
I still think it's the St. Louis Cardinals, but I think the Cubs have closed that gap. If I was picking the division, I would pick the St. Louis Cardinals as the most complete team in the division. But to say it's and we had a little Brewers love earlier in the year too.
Yeah.
But I think I picked the Cubs last in that division, and they're certainly not a last place team.
Nope. I was wrong on that as well. Now, do the Cubs go out and add at the trade deadline?
So I think Major League, all fan bases want you to add, no matter where you're at. There's a fine line in Major League Baseball, whether you add or not. Are you truly a contender? Are you trying to win something of a value?
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. Do you want to be a contender?
Do you? Yeah, correct. Do you want to be a contender? Are you just trying to win a division? Or are you just trying to break 500?
You're trying to win a series in the playoffs?
What's your goal?
Right.
If you tell me your goal is, as the Cubs GM, is to make a deep run into the playoff, well, you fire up your trade machine right now and you go start looking for two arms immediately.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Journal-Constitution is what I get locally a lot. Had basically the same article yesterday. What do you do if you're Atlanta?
Right.
Do you go try to add pieces? Do you really think you're a contender this year? How about the Dodgers? As good as the Dodgers were last year, they've added pieces already this year. So it seems like every year somebody adds that one important piece that gets them over the hump. I personally think the White Sox need a veteran off the bench bat. Everybody needs something.
So, yeah, let's go there. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
Okay.
If you're the Chicago White Sox, and late July, early August, you're getting Luis Robert back. And late August, early September, you're getting Eloy Jimenez back.
All right.
Who are you going to get in the trade market that's going to match that talent?
You're going to get someone to get you to that point, and also someone willing to get 3 bats a week. You can't go get someone expecting to play every night. Let's think about what we've seen teams go get in the past. Now, and it's turned out great. The Braves kind of went and got Adam Duvall for the same reason,
right?
To be a righty-lefty platoon 2 years ago at the trade deadline. Now he's played himself back into the major league contention. Teams have went and got Adam Dunn types. I don't think you can go get an everyday player superstar that helped the White Sox, but that utility guy that's going to take a pinch hit. It's going to, it's a special guy. I always think of Rick Mundy. I'm a little old guy, so, he could sit on the bench for a week and come off the bench and hit a line drive. Those guys are worth their weight in gold. And in the American League, you can always pinch hit those guys. I mean, you can always DH those guys. I don't think there's no one you get that can replace the 2 guys you talked about. I mean, there's no one unless you're going to go trade for an MVP candidate. But I mean, there's deals to be made. Could the Dodgers use one more middle infielder at this point that could do the similar thing?
No, I think they're fine. You look at what Gavin Lux has done with the Dodgers. Corey Seager's coming back. I don't think the Dodgers have any worries whatsoever, except for maybe that last starter in the rotation. That was supposed to be Dustin Mays, and I know Gonsolin's coming back, and David Price has been spotty, but that if I'm the Dodgers, that's the one spot where I'm going after. I feel like I'll tell you, the injury of Corey Seager to me was a godsend for Gavin Lux. An absolute godsend because he's playing every day, he's producing, he's hitting, he's comfortable in that lineup, he's playing in his natural position. To me, the Dodgers really have set themselves up by addition by subtraction with the short-term injury of Corey Seager.
And there's some truth to that. I'm a big fan of the Marvin Gonzalez's of the world, the Jackson Purifour of the world.
Jerkson, yeah.
Yeah, you just having those bats that's willing to set. But not everybody can do that though either, Chappy.
I'm saying to you, Gavin Lux isn't going to sit.
No, I think he's an everyday player now.
I think he moves to second base, and he plays there from now on.
Yeah, I agree.
And they figure out Chris Taylor and what have you off of that. But this kid needs to play at second base every day.
Chris Taylor has had every chance to own that position.
And that's the other part of that too, right? Because you look at what's going on in the outfield. Mookie Betts is starting to hit. Cody Bellinger's healthy and starting to hit. All of a sudden, Chris Taylor's going to find playing time's not so easy to come by in this lineup.
No, I mean, I could see that definitely being an issue. And I agree. I think Gavin Lux is a guy that I thought the Dodgers were going to let sit around on their bench until somebody went and got him and made him a superstar.
I think he's their everyday second baseman from now on. I think that as soon as Seager comes back, I think that's what they do. They might send him down for a week or two to work on defense, but I wouldn't. I just shift them right over there. You make errors, son, get back out there. Because if you think about what that does to that offense, Now you got Albert Pujols to platoon with Max Muncy to platoon with Justin Turner, and then those two in the middle to go with Mookie, Bellinger, and then whoever you choose to put in left field.
So the $1 million question, and we didn't talk about this, is going to come down to who's going to be willing to sell here in a few months. And that's the other side of it. There's going to be some teams willing to go on the sale market.
Yeah.
And there's teams right now that's going to figure out between June the 3rd and like July the 15th.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are they buyers or are they sellers?
Well, and one that makes a whole lot of sense to me is the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
They've dug themselves a hole that I don't think that they can get out of. Now, I don't think they're going to go selling Buxton. I doubt they sell Berrios. So you're looking at guys like Jorge Polanco. You're looking at guys like maybe Max Kepler. Not the guys that Kenta Maeda might be a guy that gets traded. Not guys that you're like, oh, wow, I can get,
Right.
If I told you could get Byron Buxton, that changes things, right?
Right.
If I tell you you can get Max Kepler, that's not quite as exciting.
No. And if the Braves decide they're a seller at the time, they're not going to sell any of that core. But you might.
Braves aren't selling, brother. The Braves aren't selling, brother. I'm telling you right now, the Braves are not selling.
I don't think so either. But there'll be people out there that do. But I mean, you would never trade an Ozzie Albies and
no. You don't trade any. I mean, if from the Braves' perspective, I'm looking at you got Acuna, you got Albies, and at this point, you have Riley. Those are the three guys that are off limits. So outside of that, we can talk. Dansby Swanson's probably off limits, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, if you want, what if you can get the mother off for Freddie Freeman?
Well, that would be hard to do.
I know.
Because the one thing about Freddie Freeman is he's such a face of the franchise. It's almost impossible to trade him and not be the most unpopular trade. Just move across town. They're moving the face of the franchise any day, I feel like. So, and every day, the Braves are not front page news right now. It's where does Julio land? That's what's on the front page every day of the newspaper.
But that's the right thing to do for the Falcons.
It is 100%.
I don't think it is the right thing to do for the Braves.
I don't either, but
you can impact your team in other ways.
Yeah, and there are pieces that I could see the Braves moving if they end up 10, 15 games back. I just don't see it happening.
Is Travis Darnell one of them?
Yeah, I think he could. That's exactly who I was thinking about. If you're in contention and you want a catcher, you want to play, especially a platoon catcher, Travis Darnell is still got tons and tons of pop in that bat and pretty decent pitch hitter. You might see somebody come pick up a relief pitcher or something.
Yeah.
I really think the Nationals may be the team selling in that division before it's over with.
But how do you do that? Soto's already having trouble with getting pitched to. How do you realistically do that?
Well, you've got to be willing to convince. Well, first you got to convince Soto you're going to get something to help him.
Right.
And I think part of his frustration right now is what you said. Is I don't know if he feels like there's a lot there to help him at the plate.
It's very boom or bust.
Yeah, could you break the Nationals down and rebuild it in 4 years around Trey Turner and Juan Soto?
Yeah. Let me put it like this. you really have to make your optimum trades for Scherzer and Corbin in order to do that.
Yeah.
The thing about that with me is I don't trust the Nationals' track record developing talent.
Yes. And I'm trying to think of a good example, but there's many good examples of it.
How's Carter Keyboom doing?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, okay, they got Juan Soto, right?
Right.
Where's Victor Robles?
Nowhere near where he's supposed to be.
What was the shortstop's name? Or not the second baseman, Luis Garcia. How's he doing?
I don't even know if he's even playing anymore.
Well, so I guess my point is, so you can point to Trey Turner. Trey Turner's a San Diego product.
Right.
So they got Juan Soto right.
And Trey Turner was a pretty finished product by the time the National.
NC State. Yeah. Look at their pitching. What pitchers have they developed?
None.
So they got Strasburg, who was the second or third overall pick?
Yep.
Didn't have to develop that a whole lot. Corbin and Scherzer were both outside guys. Fetty they got from San Francisco. I can't remember if they got Joe Ross from somewhere else or not, but at this point we're talking about our fourth and fifth pitchers. They've developed nothing, Randall.
No, and even the people that have left, like Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper was going to be a star.
He's a first overall pick.
Yeah.
Anthony Rendon was like the sixth or seventh pick.
So I'm reading an article that I happened to bookmark. I didn't even know we were going to hear. I was going to bring it up later. Some of the players possibly available in teams, and it questions whether if this team becomes a trader at the trade deadline, the pieces they have that they can move.
Right.
The number one team they list is the Rockies, which we've all kind of felt like Trevor Story's been on the market. And Marquez, right-hand pitcher. Cubs, they say, were for sure a seller earlier in the year. Of course, Chris Bryant, Jock Peterson. Not so much now. The Brewers, and this one is hard for me to swallow. Josh Hader. Could the Brewers move away from Josh Hader?
Yes.
Okay. Rangers, Joey Galloway.
Hold on.
Gallo.
You're just going to scheme over that. I say yes to that, and you're just going to scheme over that.
I was going to come back to it, but no.
Okay, we can come back. Okay.
I was going to get the rest of them. Joey Gallo, Rangers, easy to move away, right?
He's not going anywhere.
Richard Rodriguez and Adam Frazier.
Absolutely want something.
Okay. Dylan Bundy, Andrew Heaton, and Jose Quintano.
I feel like those guys should go at the deadline, but I don't know how they can justify that to their fan base.
Kyle Seager.
Stays.
Last one.
Wait, hold on. Seattle's got a good young team.
Right.
People don't see them because they're out west. Seattle's legitimate. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm saying that team is doing it the right way, and in a couple of years, they're going to be tough to contend with. Okay, go ahead.
Sterling Marte from the Marlins.
What about him?
Would the Marlins move on from him?
Expletive no.
All right. So the only one that I disagree with, we're going to go back up. How do the Brewers move on from Josh Hader?
King's ransom, man. You look at what they have. You look at their pitching. Take their hitting away. I'm not even talking about that. You're talking about Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff 1-2. Right?
Right.
Devin Williams is kind of like a forgotten about guy. You just don't really know where he goes. To me, you put him as a 3, and you move fastball Freddie into that closer role.
Interesting.
You put all your eggs into trading the Josh Hader basket and getting 3 or 4 top-tier prospects out of it. I think Freddie Peralta becomes an elite closer as soon as he picks up the ball.
The team would probably be more willing to give up a king's ransom for a Hater because you get him for not just rent-a-player status,
right,
but you get him for like 2.5 years. So.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, I see that happening. I don't. If you're the Brewers and you're built on, look, I don't know what the Brewers' plan is with Devin Williams. I kind of do. The rest in his arm, they're trying to be able to utilize him down the stretch, and I understand that. But I think Devin Williams is a starter. And I think you kind of have to start treating him as such, even while still limiting his innings. To me, he fits in perfectly as that 3, and Peralta makes a lot of sense in that closing role.
So there's definitely some guys out there that can help a team.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other names that Matthew Boyd's on the list. Yeah, if you're desperate for pitching, yeah, you can go get him.
Can I give you a name?
Yeah.
And I talked about this team at 8, but I didn't mention him. The Arizona Diamondbacks have a pretty good young team.
Right.
Not necessarily included in those plans right now is David Peralta.
How about Andorra Escobar, too?
I don't know how you could trade a guy who's hit 13 home runs. I feel like at least with Peralta, you can justify building towards the youth movement. With Escobar and with Marte, I don't see them. I see them asking too much to really, truly move those guys.
I didn't think
Both
about
of those guys.
Petralta, but that would be interesting.
And they'll be able to do that because of the emergence of Pavin Smith. Pavin Smith and Josh Rojas, both of those guys, fit in really nicely in that offense. And it kind of makes Peralta a little bit expendable.
So I keep a little tucked list over here of names if we ever run out of time. And on the top of that list is Pavin Smith.
And I talked about him at 8.
Yeah, that's somebody on my little tuck back list of names that.
Did you happen to hear my comp?
No, I didn't. I heard the first part of the show, but I missed the second part.
So my comp is former Diamondback. Played first base for the Diamondbacks. You want to guess? No.
No. Now you've got me completely confused.
Played first base for the Cubs.
You're going to have to give me this one, Chappy, because you got
Mark Grace.
Okay. Mark Grace was a Diamondback. That's where
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he played for the D-backs. And I say that because he's going to hit for high average. Now, Grace never played the outfield, obviously. I don't know that Smith's a true outfielder. He's got 15 to 20 homers in him. Like I said, he's going to work the walk. He knows how to handle the zone and, probably has a little bit more speed than Grace. But he's that type of profile offensively. And I really like this kid, especially if you're in a situation like our leagues where you can play him at first and in the outfield.
Right.
That in essence opens him up to first, corner, and the outfield. And, anytime you're trying to figure out 10 position spots, having a guy who can fill 4 of them is a benefit, right?
Absolutely. And also, I think they've moved him from hitting leadoff. And once they did, he went on a 12-game hitting streak.
He hit leadoff last night, actually. I mean, they put Rojas there a lot lately.
Yeah.
I just think it's a situation by situation. But I really do like him. Again, in the leadoff, not so much because of where he's hitting, but because he'll have a chance to run more. I think he fits better as like a 5 or 6 hitter. But we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of talent in that lineup. So we've run a little bit over on baseball. Do you have any last-second bows to put on this package?
I do not, other than I think I'd be glad to get to the All-Star break and reset my fantasy team a little bit.
You're ready to do that draft, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's funny. We do in my leagues. I've done this. In all my leagues, I've done this. We do minor league rosters, and we have 2 minor league drafts. We do half of our minor league draft before the regular season draft, and then we do the other half of it at the All-Star break. And it kind of gives an extra added sense of bringing everybody together and building, and it's really neat. So I'm looking forward. I actually have the first pick in the All-Star break draft. So I have my pick of all the guys that get drafted, all the guys that are left out there. I'm really looking forward to it, Randall.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Started working on my sheet today.
Did you?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent out there, buddy. There's a lot of talent. And I've given you some pretty big names tonight, too.
Yep. Yeah.
So, all right, man. So, football. I know you're prepping for drafts.
I am deep prepping.
I actually am writing an article for something that's not yet to be announced, but coming in the next month, about the Bengals and the Steelers fantasy prospects.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about that last week, right?
We sure did.
Let's finish up the FC North.
All right. Where do you want to start?
Where do you want to start? Better team, Bengals or the Browns?
I have a Ravens notes pulled up, and I have something circled 4 times that I want to bring to my attention and to your attention before we go any further.
All right.
Who do you think are the lowest 2 pass attempt teams in the NFL the past 2 years?
Probably the 2 teams we're talking about.
The Ravens are the second lowest, and I would have never put that together because it seems like they throw a lot more than that. The Titans have attempted the fewest passes in the NFL, and the Ravens the next amount. In turn, where do you think they both rank in rushing attempts?
I don't think I know top 2, top 3.
Top 4. I think one of them
top
was 4
4.
and one of them was 2. So it really, I lowered my expectations from Lamar Jackson once I got into the numbers. I'm not as high on Lamar Jackson as I was even last year, Chappy.
Yeah.
But after I've done my numbers, and I'll throw this at you, J.K. Dobbins moved up at 6 spots, I think, in my running back rankings. So,
yeah.
What do you think? I'm lowering Jackson's projections and moving J.K. Dobbins up.
Totally agree. And I started saying that late last year, and the reason being, not so much about Dobbins. I mean, I think Dobbins is. I think it's about
attempts.
Not so much attempts. It's about the holes that are opened up by having to stay honest.
True.
From the speed and breakaway ability of Lamar Jackson. Because when you're running that little buck, whatever you want to call it, where they're taking it in a shotgun and he's sitting to the left or to the right, and you feed that up in there, you cannot bite on it one time.
Right.
Jackson's going to read that. That's what Lamar Jackson is never going to get the true credit for, is reading that one cut.
Yep. The Ravens actually are an old school offense, and he runs that play better than
ad nauseum.
And
It will literally make you sick watching them for an extended period of time.
You just get like, oh my God, here it comes.
Yeah. But they're so darn good at it. They're so good at it.
Do you have the Ravens done anything in Bateman, who they drafted, which we've talked about is a great route runner, wide receiver. They added Sammy Watkins in the offseason. Have they done anything to the passing game that makes you go, oh, it's going to be remarkably better?
Short story, no. Long story, I like Bateman quite a bit.
I do too, and you've kind of got me on his rails once I kind of misunderstood what he was during the draft.
Right.
And are they? And I know they've been active in it. If they land Julio Jones, does that make a difference in your book?
No.
The talent of the wide receiver.
Why is because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, buddy.
You're going to go with it. You got the point.
Yeah. Why is because Lamar Jackson isn't a proficient enough passer to get a guy like Julio Jones open enough to make plays that Julio Jones makes. You see it with Hollywood Brown. It's fine if you can get him 40 yards off down the field on an out route. That's fine. But how often does that happen?
Not often.
Exactly. So while a guy like Julio might be able to be more physical and take that crossing pattern better, I severely question Lamar Jackson's ability to get it to him accurately.
Right.
That's not his MO.
And I put Jackson at the front of the second 5 quarterbacks. In other words, he's in my 6-7 range, 5, 6, 7 range. I've seen him as high as 3, which would put him Mahomes, Rodgers.
Flipping way.
He's not there to me anymore in the career.
He's not a passer. So here's my question to you, Randall. I know you've done this more than I have. Who's the better fantasy quarterback in 2021? Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray?
I have Kyler Murray rated ahead of Lamar Jackson.
How much higher?
Kyler Murray is my 3rd quarterback.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Well,
that respectfully.
I know, but that's I have it Mahomes, Rodgers, Murray. That's my.
And can I give you my respectful reason why?
Go ahead. Yeah, I mean that's what the show's about, to disagree and to throw out different opinions. You never offend me.
I don't believe he ever lives up to that elite. And I've been a big fan of his.
Right.
I don't think he's big enough to be able to withstand a 16-game NFL schedule from a hits perspective.
A 17-game schedule.
Sorry, excuse me. A 17-game schedule.
That's going to take. So I'm going to give you, if you're buying long-term futures, I completely agree. I try, and you cannot do this. If you put the injury factor and the fact that he's, I don't care what they say, 5'9" at best.
Right.
Into the factor, I'm going to lower him a couple of spots. what I try to do when I'm ranking players, and I don't necessarily draft them in the order I rank them.
Sure.
But what I do is put projections of numbers, and I do go ahead and set it based on 15 games because I figure everybody's going to lose a couple of games. And his numbers just simply come out higher. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's been so proficient with his – quietly, he's as proficient with his legs as like the Russell Wilsons were young in his career. And he's not Lamar Jackson, of course, but he's very proficient when he has the ball in his hands.
I think he's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson.
I do too. But
people forget Kyler Murray didn't run his rookie year at all.
No.
At all. So I'll play my own devil's advocate here. If he can adapt going from year 2 to year 3, learn to get out, learn to get out of bounds, learn to find his checkdowns, he could reach that point to where he becomes that third, maybe even second quarterback.
You're projecting him a lot. I'm projecting him a lot. Let's look at last year's numbers.
Yeah.
Last year's numbers, threw for 3,700 or 3,900 yards, 26 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 94. Rushing stats. I don't see it here. That's what I want it full. Fantasy. Maybe this is where I made a note that said he had 500 yards rushing, but I want to verify that exactly.
He had 819 yards rushing.
Yeah. Rookie year, do you have that in front of you?
I don't. Okay. I can get it. Hang on.
I'm crashing.
He had 544 yards rushing as
rookie yard. Yeah, I got 544 wrote down. Okay.
544 and 4 touchdowns. Last year, he had 819 and 11 touchdowns rushing.
Okay, so that's 66 points. Off of rushing touchdowns and 80 points off of his legs. That's 144 points.
Yeah.
That is equivalent to another, you get 4 yards for 100. That's equivalent for another 1,500 yards tacked on to Patrick Mahomes' numbers. So it's large. It's large. And Jalen Hurts, I have Jalen Hurts projected almost in the same realm. Now, I didn't project him for 11.
As Jackson?
Yeah. Not as Jackson, as Murray. I don't have Murray rushing for 800 yards. I have him and I try to just do round numbers. I have him at 700 yards and 7 touchdowns, 14 points.
Okay.
You know.
So can I poo-poo on your parade?
Yeah.
So we all remember that hit last year. I think it was a Buffalo game last year. Was it Buffalo? Miami. One of those games last year where he got hit. He hurt both of his shoulders, right? We all remember. It was a Thursday night game. If I was good at math, I'd be able to break it down. But so anyway, from week 10 on, Randall, after that injury, what do you think he rushed for?
Not much.
How many yards a game do you think he rushed for after week 10?
30. I had him, so I kind of
30.7. How many rushing touchdowns do you think he had from week 10 to week 16?
2.
He had 1. What makes you think that's not going to happen this year?
You hope it don't. But I do come down on my projection. I came off 4 touchdowns and 150 yards. So I also think Arizona's running game will be a little better. Maybe he doesn't have to. One of the reasons he ran for 800 yards last year is because at time the Arizona run game looked really, really, really bad.
So you're talking to the number one Steeler fan here, right?
Yeah,
What was their big addition in the run game?
James Conner.
Buddy, I don't buy it.
Well,
I don't buy it. Let me tell you why. The run game last year had nothing to do with Kenyon Drake's ability or inability to run between the tackles.
right.
It came from the fact that every time there was an opportunity to run for the first 2/3 of the year, Kyler Murray took that opportunity.
Right.
Until he got hurt, and the whole league knew it, and they all started keying on poor Kenyon Drake.
And I don't think.
What's changed?
Well, two of the starters are actually still on the team, but now listed down the depth chart.
Offensive line starters?
Yes. They signed an unrestricted free agent from the New York Giants, Justin Pugh. And they signed a
Hold on. From where?
The New York Giants.
Okay.
Which,
What was their offensive line like that?
Horrible.
Okay.
He was signed last year and was injured. He didn't play last year.
Okay, fair.
So you gotta believe that. Okay, let me run it by you.
Yeah, go ahead.
DJ Humphries.
Okay.
Good offensive lineman, decent left tackle. Okay. And I lost my internet again. Jeez. Give me just a second.
You're fine. So I guess we're kind of at a crossroads here, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't see the offensive line being any different than what it was last year. So I guess get the point. Has Kyler Murray learned from his mistakes about taking hits?
I don't think he can play. I think he's like Russell Wilson. I don't think there'll ever be a situation where he don't take some hits, just by the nature of his game. I don't know.
It's concerning.
I like what Cliff Kingsbury said in the press a day ago, and that's really when he said that he has his full trust in Kyler Murray more than he's ever had. I just got to feel, and the third year is when a quarterback comes of age.
And I love this kid. I've been a big fan of his.
Right. So I got my thing back up, and it just says, here's the little 4 of the 5 are returning. Humphries, Pugh, Hudson, and Beckham. Last year, guards play was horrible, and they brought 4 different guards to camp trying to find 2 guards to play. So we'll see. I like their tackles. I like their center, but even their own website says their guard play was pathetic.
Yeah.
So, I am not a believer in Kenyon Drake either. I actually think they have a better running back. I think they'll be better off. I don't think Connor is their answer at running back. I think he's clearly the backup.
Fair.
But
so you like Chase Edmonds?
I do. I do. And I think when he got on the field, he was productive.
So you think Chase Edmonds is a starter?
Yes, without a doubt. I don't think.
Without a doubt.
I don't even think
that's fairly bold.
I don't think James Conner is I think he's the second back in Arizona.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that.
Also,
go ahead.
Also, that division is kicked up a notch this year because
yes,
it's going to be run and gun and shootout with Stafford now in LA.
Yeah.
To already going with Russell Wilson in
what's going on
Seattle.
in San Francisco.
What's going on in San Francisco? There's a good chance that San Francisco is going to be in the.
Well,
Now,
one way or another. I mean,
yeah,
whether it's
that's the one place Julio lands. It makes a difference to the offense instantly.
Well, to me, if Julio goes there, I don't think that to me says that they're more confident in Trey Lance than initially. That's what that says to me.
I agree with you. It kind of says that Trey Lance has got a chance to play a lot this year.
Right.
All right, before we get going, let's jump over to the Browns real fast.
Yeah.
I haven't broke the Browns down near as far as the Ravens. The Ravens happened to be on my list last week. Of course, you got Baker.
Yeah.
What do you call? I call Baker a mid-pack quarterback. I don't have him any better than a mid-packer. He's in my list with the Matt Ryans, and that's where he's at.
Yeah.
I love Matt Ryan. I think he's a great quarterback, but I don't see Baker Mayfield winning you a fantasy league. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have him as a high-end QB2.
Yeah.
I know you know this. I was a big Baker fan at Oklahoma, and the fact that obviously being a Steeler fan, I know the Browns fairly well.
Right.
This is not Baker's an old school quarterback in that he's a systems quarterback.
He is.
He's never going to throw 40 times a game consistently.
Right.
And the Browns want it that way.
Right.
So he's very much a Kirk Cousins type of quarterback.
Right there in that group. Yeah. It's a very good. But now the Browns are the only team that had two running backs as high as I rated, both Chubb and Hunt. So you've got to. Of course, I call Chubb an RB.
You said it wrong. Hunt and Chubb.
Either way you rate it. Both guys get an RB.
I just like the way it sounds.
Both of it.
I see the wheels turning.
Yeah. It's the only team that has two RB1s when you draft. And I think Hunt may be my last RB1. I don't want to build a team around Hunt, but he definitely would be at worst, he's a very high RB2.
I agree. I think he's an RB2, but one of the best ones.
Chubb, backside of the first round.
Yeah, totally agree. And only because he has to share.
Yes.
You talk about, you want to talk about offensive lines.
Great one.
The best.
Yep.
It's the best in the NFL. And I don't think it was close last year. You look at yards per carry.
It's the best.
What they did last year was kind of generational.
And they haven't even tapped into – there's quite a bit other talent at the wide receiver position on this team.
And tight end position.
Yeah, and they don't even –
They don't have to.
They don't have to. That's the best way to put it. They don't have to do it.
So, curveball. Better coach. Kevin Stefanski or Zach Taylor?
All right, right now I was prepared for this one. I have Kevin Stefanski as my better coach. But I'm going to give Zach Taylor an incomplete because he didn't have Joe Burrow for the full year.
Right.
I like the offense Zach Taylor runs better, but the more complete coach right now who has better that offensive line in Cincinnati was a sieve. So we don't really know what enough.
But I don't blame that all on Taylor either, though. I mean,
yeah. So here, I'm going to throw a curveball. Let's go to the next position group.
Okay.
Where do you rate Odell Beckham in this year's draft?
Jesus.
And he may be. Let me. this is my note I wrote down. The most talent, but least defined role of an elite wide receiver. He is in a weird situation. It could get traded even before the beginning of the season. I think it's a possibility.
He is very Antonio Brown-esque.
Very, very much.
Josh Gordon-esque. He is a loose cannon. That said, he could be a top 5 receiver this year. The bandwidth on Beckham Jr. is probably as large as anybody in the NFL.
Absolutely. And talent-wise, there's no argument to me that, I'm not a huge fan as far as like, oh, this is the one of players I root for. But he was so good. When he's on, he's so good. Now, these are not my ratings, but I pulled up Pro Football Focus's ratings.
Love their stuff, by the way.
They have, I'm just looking for him real fast. I thought I knew where he was at. While we're looking for this, though, a very nice 2 in Jarvis Landry, I think, that gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, I'll tell you, they're nice compliments.
Right.
So, what were you wanting to know about Landry or Beckham?
Where they got him rated at?
Shoot, they got me locked out.
I
gotta sign in.
It's all right. I'll find him in just a second.
There, I'm signed in. Beckham has a
player 22 is what I got on this list. Wide receiver 22.
I got him 37th out of 127. I got him 75.3 overall.
Yeah.
So, they got Landry at 13th. I don't know that I agree with that.
I don't. I totally don't.
I feel like Beckham maybe almost inverse.
Yeah. I
think 13 is a little high for Beckham.
I do.
But I could put him in the teens.
Here's the group I have him with, and we'll just go through and play a quick game. Beckham,
I love this.
Beckham, Kenny Golladay.
Golladay.
Beckham, Robert Woods.
Beckham.
Beckham, Tyler Lockett.
Beckham.
Beckham, Chase Claypool.
Claypool.
All right. So I just read you a section that was right together. Everybody that I – so
those are all great. I mean, those are great comparisons. That's right in that group. I mean, those are all guys that you're like, oh, man, this is tough, right?
It's where you win your league is picking that guy right.
And then the cool thing about it is, at least I don't know how you do it, but this is how I do it. I make those decisions in June.
Yeah.
And then I go back and I don't even look at that. And I make those decisions again in July.
Right.
And then like halfway through August, I'll make those decisions and then I'll compare them. And that's how you read trends. Everybody always wants to know how I do trends in baseball. That's how you do it. You gather data, and you look and see who's trending up. I think Beckham's very well could be one of those guys that you could get in the 4th or 5th round, and you're like, this was a crazy steal.
And it's also, you got to know your draft. That's what people don't realize enough. You've got to be able to evaluate your own draft while you're drafting. If I'm having a bad draft, I have to be willing to accept I really haven't done the things I wanted to do now. So if
how do you adjust?
Yeah, how do you adjust? That's when I'm more likely to throw the dart at Odell Beckham because you might get him in the 4th round and get top 8 production. If I'm having a real good draft, I might go for the Robert Woods there because I feel like he may be the surest thing of that good group. You know?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I did pretty well in baseball, right?
Right.
Well, 2 years ago, I didn't do that well, but this year I feel like I did a really good job. And the biggest part of doing well in any draft is really understanding where the depth truly lies.
True.
Not perceived depth, actual depth.
Right.
And I think in this particular draft, it's quarterbacks and it's wide receivers.
Correct.
So if you can get a guy like Odell Beckham, and let's say the 3rd or 4th round, and he performs as a wide receiver 1, you've set your entire team up around that good pick of Odell Beckham Jr.
Right. So there's all kinds of strategy to use. This year, to me, seems like the one running back early. Stake your claim, get your one running back. Stake your claim again early at running back. Because I feel like from round 4 through 7, they are quality wide receivers. And that's this group we were just talking about. I've had years where I've had worse wide receivers than, let's just throw that together, Tyler Lockett, Odell Beckham, and Claypool.
Yeah.
You can win your league with those 3 players.
Right.
Especially if you've been able to get a Kittle early, a big running back like Derrick Henry, maybe follow it up with Najee Harris or something. You've got a monster team.
That's not happening, by the way.
Well, I'm talking into the flip, so I know. I've got the 10th pick in my first draft that we saw. So
that's not. Najee Harris is a 1st round pick. I'll be bold. I don't care. Najee Harris is a 1st round pick.
I think picking in 10, I can get him in the 2nd round.
Good luck, bud.
Well, I've got plans if we don't.
Let me put it this way. Don't make that plan in our draft.
Again, it's knowing who you're drafting with.
Yeah, absolutely.
These guys are from Nebraska. They all love the Chiefs. I can tell you now, Kelsey and Mahomes and Hill are all going in the 1st round.
Yeah.
So everybody pushes down. So at the 10th pick, I think I may come out with a Nick Chubb or Jonathan Taylor and still be able to turn the corner and come back with Najee. But one of the guys was on here just a minute ago, so I'm sure he sees that. But I want to finish up real fast with the Browns.
Yeah.
2 elite tight ends that had terrible production last year. I don't know if Austin Hooper's elite, but he's paid to be elite. But overall, I think the Cleveland's got a very fine offense, but they're not an offense I'm going to be all over for the fantasy draft. There's pieces to get, and that running back situation is great. But let's face it, the Cleveland Browns are going to win with defense. They have an elite defense and can run the football. So, I'm just, as much as I like Baker as a player, doesn't mean I'm going to take Baker in this draft.
He's a good QB too.
Yeah, I mean, if you can match him up with somebody, I'm more and more convinced that the Browns are positioned to make a little run here. I don't know if they have enough to win it, but they're positioned to make a run.
It's a tough division.
Very tough.
Any of those teams can make a deep run.
Yeah.
And so just, as we wrap up, I don't know that in a fresh draft type of format, I will have any Cleveland Browns.
Unless I'm on the backside of that first round, I do value if Chubb gets past about the 8th or 9th pick with the group of Jonathan Taylors and the Cam Akers, there's players I like better, but I could see somebody moving up and getting a couple of running backs I like early there too. Chubb is the only one I could really think of. But I'll tell you, honestly, at the 10 hole, the player I most coveted and going through the rankings and doing mock drafts is Jonathan Taylor. That's going to be somebody you hear me talk a lot about this year. I think he's the guy that can make a huge leap. And he's somebody I'm going to target a lot.
So you like Taylor over Cam Akers?
They're in the same group. If I was picking today, it would be Taylor. But it doesn't mean I don't like Cam Akers. I just have a higher – Taylor, to me, is maybe 1 to 2 spots higher than Akers. But I'll tell you, I have Taylor at 6 in my rankings.
So
most rankings has him at 10.
Yeah. No, and I'm probably closer to you are. So I'll ask you this because I know the answer to the first question I have. Akers or Harris?
Wow.
It's tough, right?
I think it would be Akers.
It's close.
I would be on the clock making that decision. You know,
I'm taking Harris, but I'd be happy with either.
Yeah, if I was on the clock at number 10 and it showed up in my queue that it was Taylor, Harris, Akers, I would be happy at 10 if anyone. Say
you're at pick 12, and you could pick 2 of those guys.
I want. If I had Taylor, I'd want Najee. And that, I know it makes no sense, but I think when you build your team, you need one all-purpose back and one pounder. And Taylor and Akers feels like kind of the same back to me. I always want to get one guy that's the guy. But also, if I had pick 3, I would take Derrick Henry. Just because I want the pounder, you know?
Right.
I know the old PPR thing, but.
Okay. I got to end this on this.
Okay.
Top 4 running backs. PPR.
Top 4 running backs?
Yeah.
I'm going Dalvin Cook, 1.
Okay.
Christian McCaffrey, 2.
Okay.
3. God, 3 was a tough one, but I went Derrick Henry.
It is tough. In a PPR, you went Derrick Henry.
I went Derrick Henry, but right behind Derrick Henry, I have Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have Derrick Henry at 3 in a PPR, but he's not going to catch 10 passes. So you're just counting on him having 2,100 yards and 20 touchdowns.
He's going to let you down some games. I mean, that's but there's going to be games where he doesn't, where he just wins the week for you, right?
Yep. I have Taylor over Ezekiel Elliott and Alvin Kamara. So that kind of tells you how high I am on Taylor. And one of the 2 backs we just discussed is wedged in between them. It's your guy, too, by the way.
Yeah. So, I guess, you're at pick 7. Are you still taking a running back?
If Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay, no. I have a Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams as a back half top 5, top 6 player. If Aaron Rodgers is not in Green Bay, I'm probably not taking a wide receiver before pick 11 or 12. Yeah, 10. I might even take Kelsey over a wide receiver at a late first-round pick, according to the league rules. I play in a league that requires you to play a tight end at a tight end position, and we only play 2 wide receivers, and that makes a tight end worth a whole lot in that league. My number one wide receiver is Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
But number two, let me just pull this up because I have a hard time splitting these guys out. I have Tariq currently number two, and
I agree.
I don't love having Tariq, but I mean that big play ability.
There's at least 2 or 3 weeks where he's going
to win you the league,
30 points, and there's going to be a handful of other leagues where he gets you 15 to 25. I don't see another better option, that's for sure. Where do you have Michael Thomas at? I know we're out of time, but that's a guy that was the number one receiver last year, right?
I have him at 10th.
10th overall?
10th receivers wise.
Wow.
Well, so in front of him,
I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
I have Evans.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Calvin Ridley.
Right.
D-Hop. McCaffrey. Diggs. A.J. Brown. Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill. It's not an obvious place to just say, okay, it's Michael Thomas. I'm going to put him at 5.
So you have him 9th because you have McCaffrey in there, which is still right. Am I right in saying that you have Christian McCaffrey in there?
No. This is just wide receivers. I have him at 9th in wide receivers.
I thought I heard you say. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think it's telling that.
I said McCaffrey for Metcalf. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. And totally lost my train of thought. It doesn't matter. We're out of time anyway.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I love having this conversation, and in all honesty, I mean, it's totally organic, right? Like, we have no script. I feel like with football, we're baseball. We kind of know what we're going to talk about, but with football, it's just kind of like, hey, we want to talk about this, and we just kind of go off of it.
I think we're going to talk about the AFC East next week.
I could do that. So, going into training camp, let's just spend 5 minutes here. AFC North wrap-up. What's your biggest story? What are you looking at as a fantasy analyst?
Joe Burrow's health.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger's ability to play at 40. Najee Harris's production in the preseason. Jamar Chase's production in the preseason. The split among the running backs in Cleveland. A lot. That division has a lot of fantasy players.
A lot of moving parts, right? Yeah.
That division has a lot of elite players in it to me, too.
Yeah. So, I'll play the homer. I'm interested. I know what's going to happen with Najee Harris. I could not be more confident in the Najee Harris story, in the Najee Harris narrative, if you will.
Well, I think, too, let's give a little advice. If you're drafting early in your draft, like the 1st of August, you can probably get Najee Harris a little lower than you can after he has 3 preseason games. So.
Right. The key storyline to me, and I'll admit I'm playing homer, pecking order amongst the receivers in Pittsburgh.
Interesting.
I want to know what the offense looks like in the preseason. Are they going down the seam? Are they running that little extended passing game? Are they running more cuts? Because they got a new offensive coordinator.
I think the story of preseason with the Steelers is going to be Juju Smith's involvement in the offense.
Well, and I think it's going to be vanilla.
Yeah.
And vanilla bean. And they're not going to show much. But I think by them not showing much, they're saying a lot.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster is one of the best sleepers in fantasy football this year.
Where do you have him? as far as in your head, where would you go to a pick?
I would have him low wide receiver 2.
Okay.
I'd have him between 20 and 24 wide receiver wise.
Fair enough.
And, you know, when you look at it, he's going to catch a ton of balls. Down the stretch, Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be big. When there's playoffs on the line, he's going to be involved. I wonder about him in September and October when no one's watching.
Interesting.
It's about consistency for JJC. That's just Juju, JSC. That's it. I'll get there. So I was, just to wrap up, I was listening to the Pirates game tonight. They're calling him Key Hayes. Not Brian.
I like that.
Key Hayes.
I like that.
So, you know, I mean, we're all about these new nicknames, right? So, JSC, JSS. I'll get it right. I'll get there.
JJ, I'm going to use it next week.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, we're over. You got anything you want to put a bow on?
I've recorded so much content this week. I think everybody's just sick of me. So I'm going to take a couple away. I'm taking Friday, Saturday, and Sunday away from the mic. And I do want to push one thing. We've got merch coming in. We're also opening a Patreon. We are not looking for handout, but if you enjoy the programming and want to support us, just like PBS, we're going to give you the ability to do that if you join for an annual membership. We're even thinking about putting together a box that go out once a quarter that may have hats and stuff in for you. Don't know what that looks like, but I get a lot of people saying, how can we better this network and entertainment? We'll have more details over the next few weeks, and it's kind of the wave of the future. I'm a Patreon member to 3 podcasts, and those are the things I listen and watch at night. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Well, I'll tell you, I know we both have big things going on, and, you know, we do it for the fun, not for the notoriety or any of that stuff. But we'll continue to bring this quality product to you, and, you know, we'll adapt as we go. But, you know, until then, you know, the other angle, Thursday nights at 10, you can find us on ilogicmedia.com. You can also find us at Chappy's Fantasy Sports Group, as well as River City Media. What do you want to plug, bud?
Marion Messenger,
of course. So thanks to everyone. We have great sponsors. We have great support. We appreciate you guys so much. So we'll see you guys next Thursday. Until then, you know, if you got any questions, you can hit us up on our group pages or however you want. But see you guys next Thursday.